Hey folks, good morning from Southwest France. Um, I thought I'd make a little video today for those of you who are disabled and traveling, or disabled and considering traveling, or disabled and considering relocation. Some of these tips may be helpful for others, but these are some things that I have run into. I've been in France for about not quite 3 weeks, and I've had three kind of significant health events in that time, which sounds absurd mathematically, but for anyone who is disabled with complex conditions, you know what I'm talking about. So the first thing that came up was once I could actually get here. The first thing really was that I was stuck in bus purgatory hell for 12 hours, but once I actually got here, I had a really bad mold attack. And I think just the apartment, I mean, you would look at the apartment that I'm in, it's lovely, it's clean, it's tidy. But I think it had not been open for a little while. And I have learned since then from others who have been in lots of apartments around France and certainly in this area that any kind of ground floor apartment, which is in the US what we would call the first floor, but just the step in off the street kind of level, is underneath it. You know, it's not going to have a concrete slab, or a pier and beam with kind of movement opportunity for air underneath the foundation. Most of these are original slabs, and they are, you know, made from very, very non-synthetic materials, and they just have molds under them. Now I could sort of detect, since I have toxic mold illness in several varieties of mold, and I do have to be careful about that kind of thing. I was aware when I first walked in that there was kind of some movement on the floor, kind of, not spongy would be too strong a way to put it, but kind of some space there. And if you have mold illness and are versed on it, you know what that means. So, but that ended up, my immune system has been like way better than it usually is, which is not to say good, but way better than it usually is for the past few months. And I have not even needed to take my regular immune herb supplement that like kills all the bad things, kills COVID, kills like every flu, every sinus issue for me. And I keep it around, but I had moved over to the Boiron immune homeopathy because I tried it, and I really didn't think it would work, frankly, at all. But I tried it one time and I was like a believer. I was like, holy shit, this like just kicked it right out of there. And it was faster, and it was less mess and less thinking. And it gives you a momentary sugar high because it's in dextrose, and so it's very small, but you appreciate these things when you don't eat sugar. So and I had thought, well, that's a French company, so I'll just bring enough of that to kind of get me settled, and then I'll buy more as I need it. I knew that it was a little bit cheaper in the US, and so I did bring some with me, but I couldn't bring every single thing I own because literally that would be like 4 suitcases of supplements, of stuff that I would really, you know, in a perfect world, like to carry with me. So I left the Pure Synergy brand, the Synergy company, Rapid Rescue, at home, which is what I really, really, really love in terms of it's kept me alive through the beginning of COVID and through the pandemic. I was very, very lucky to find it on only my second round of COVID when it got very, very bad. And it's kept me alive a solid 4 times. And arguably 8. So I had this mold attack, and what that ended up meaning was that my immunity just absolutely plummeted because I couldn't deal with the mold situation and that. And I should say too, once I have gotten through that and kept all the kind of windows open a lot and so forth, I can function pretty well in this apartment, and I really like it. There's great light, and my hosts are wonderful, and and so forth. But initially they had mentioned, well, like you want to kind of keep windows closed some because bugs can get in and whatever. And that seemed all very reasonable. But as soon as my body went into the mold attack, I like just leaving things closed was just not an option. It was, death's a door kind of thing. And the only reason that I made it through it was because I did bring emergency first aid for that, which was charcoal. And I did 3 days of like basically just eating charcoal and sucking up all that mold. But once that mold was sucked up, the second event happened, which was that my immunity was like, on the floor, in the substrate. And so I immediately got COVID. And, for people who travel and are used to getting sick when they travel, or who get summer colds, et cetera, but who have immune systems, they may not understand how serious that is for someone without a functioning immune system, but it's extremely serious. It's also extremely serious to be far away from home and not have all of your immune builders at your fingertips. So the other thing I want to point out that I learned that I absolutely did not know, and I mean, I've been in the herb space for 35 years. I only use very specific ones that I've vetted very carefully. Most of the expensive ones I won't even use because they're shit. And most of the cheap ones I also won't use because they're shit. So I'm very particular about which ones I use. And all that to say, just I'm well researched in the space. But I did not know at all until I contacted this energy company, and just really in desperation, I just said, I may die here if I don't get something that helps me. And, your stuff is what helps me. And I'm very far away. And, do you have any overseas customers in the EU who, might take pity on me and be willing to sell me a bottle of this? And they wrote me back very quickly, and I really, really appreciated that level of customer service. And it wasn't like a write you back quickly, but ask you a million questions that you already answered kind of bullshit. It was just like, help. And they said, actually, we carry through iHerb and through VitaCost for international shipping. And so, see if that works for you. And so I immediately checked those things. I'm a customer of both of those companies. They have good supply chains in the US, and I trusted that they could handle it. And iHerb actually did a way better job. VitaCost is still dicking me around about it, and like their sites showing as not secure and so forth. But I ordered from iHerb. It was a pretty easy process, but there are a few things I learned that might be helpful for you to know. Number one, that you can order from them at all to begin with, and that they don't just have kind of lower to moderate end stuff. They have this very high end stuff, which I've never gone to them for this high end stuff because I get it directly from the company. So that was one thing to know. They carry Health Force, which is a very, very high end, very high fidelity supplement brand, and they carry iHerb, and they carry the Synergy Company, or Pure Synergy, which is out of Utah. Again, very high fidelity, good supply chain, good supplements. I didn't know they carried either one. Now, they don't carry the Health Force one that I needed. They carry almost everything else, but they don't carry one that I needed. The Green Protein Alchemy is really what I would have ordered if they had it. They don't carry that, but they do carry a lot of other things that might work for you instead if your body's good with other green things. It's just my body only likes that one. But what you want to know about the supply chain and like ordering from them abroad is, I would definitely recommend, if you can, use a different email address than your regular one, and use a different credit card than your regular one. I made the strategic error ultimately of I first ordered based on my regular account, but then added an address to make it international. And then I decided, you know what, it will be simpler if I just use my France email address, which I don't use for a lot of things, but I'm finding once I'm in France, and I don't want to get into like the chaos of my US email all the time just to check something from a France inquiry. It's good to have that France email address. If I had it to do over again, I would have not ordered anything into France from my US iHerb account. I would have just opened a brand new account and then used that credit card that I really only use in France, and just kept it completely separate. Because what happened after I ordered it, it did let my two orders go through, one to this address and one to my next address where I'll be soon. But what it also then did was deactivate my France account, which is a huge pain in the ass, and which now I have to deal with them about. And they do not have live like chat help, at least during any reasonable hours in France. So that's, I would definitely recommend just, get that Gmail account, give it a France name, and do it with your credit card that will handle that. You'll have the option also in ordering them in US dollars or in euros, assuming you're shipping to EU. It was not more expensive, frankly, and the shipping was still essentially free. The prices were very comparable, and they might shift a little bit day to day for exchange rate purposes, but in fact, the free shipping kicked in earlier for me to EU than it did in the US. So it was very simple, and you had three different options, and so it was pretty simple. There were some of the courier options that didn't work with auto ship, and so it was like if you put on the auto ship subscription, which I do just to get the discount, and then I like remove it after I get the order. If you do that, it will trip up a little bit with some of the couriers, but it's easily sorted, and you can just take it off if that happens. Okay, so hope that's helpful. Now, I finally got through the COVID about 2 days ago. Yesterday was really the day when I knew that I was over it, didn't have to take any kind of medication or anything. And but so this was Friday, yesterday. But 2 days prior, I had some battered fish, like a fish and chip kind of frozen dinner thing. Very pure, really nice, really inexpensive, great buy from the grocery store. But what it ended in was a rash on my elbows. Now, my elbows are often red, so like that's not necessarily the issue, but these are rashes right now. I often get eczema on my elbows, and I don't think a lot about it. It's just it's not super painful to me usually. When it is, I do the best I can to address it. But this rash happened on Wednesday. It was bumpy. It was red. It was kind of itchy and inflamed a little bit. And I thought, oh, fish. Okay. There must be something either in the fish or in the processing of the fish, or maybe there's extra mercury in there and I'm sensitive to that or whatever. So I don't eat a lot of seafood. But by Thursday, I felt it a little bit more. And I thought, okay, I should go buy some arnica gel. Okay. By Friday, really it was like going other places. Like I could feel it spreading. So I was like, okay, that's a problem. Now, something I didn't do yesterday that I probably should have done, looking back, was I didn't really take my testosterone cream, which I have been using for kind of immune boosting in a healthier way than like taking steroids. And it really has helped me to get through the COVID, given that I didn't have really what I needed to get through my COVID. So between that and my prescribed ivermectin, I was able to, kind of barely scrape through the COVID. But when I got clear that this rash was not going away and was spreading, in the middle of the night, I took a bunch of testosterone cream. But I was hesitant to do that initially because I had just taken some prednisone for it, which is also prescribed. And taking that with the testosterone cream, I kind of worried about, because I thought over time on prednisone, you can get aggressive and Sometimes on testosterone, you can get aggressive too. And I have a very high need and tolerance for my testosterone because my levels are so low. Um, so I don't tend to get aggressive on it, but prednisone can be hard to get on and off of. So it's kind of a commitment. So I just share those things for those of you who know what the whack-a-mole lifestyle is medically, of like you get rid of one thing and then another thing pops up, and then you get rid of that thing and then another thing pops up. That's what's happening right now. And two of the main things have occurred right after market day. And while I don't blame the markets at all for that, I did go out this morning and get some very strong vinegar. The vinegar here is stronger than the US vinegar is, like by a mile, by like 2.5 times. And so I think that I will do my fruits and vegetables in like a kind of a vinegar soak when I get them going forward. But between the fish and then also I got some really lovely Middle Eastern nut cookies yesterday, and then I ate several of them. So, and I'm sometimes allergic to nuts, but then sometimes not, and so I forget sometimes that can happen. And so between that and the fish that was already causing this reaction, it's turned into a whole thing. So I thought I'd make this video while I am still rested and while my brain is still clear, because being on prednisone for a few days will mean that I won't end up sleeping and I will end up having like too much energy, but like no restedness. And so my brain will stop working in a day or so. So I hope that's helpful. I know these things are complicated, and I'm sad because I was due to go to my first big event with friends here this Monday, and I was saving up all my reserves and my energy for that. But it's a big oyster eating thing, and the last thing I need to be doing is adding more seafood to the mix right now. So depending on the setup of it, I don't know if it'll be appropriate for me to go and just kind of observe and be with people, or if I'll need to stay home. But if you have chronic illnesses, you understand what I'm talking about. So anyway, hope this is helpful. See you next time.